I am your host, Lia Dunlap, and you are listening to the Oracle on Purpose podcast, where we help intentional leaders clarify their purpose and next steps to create a work and life of significance. Welcome to the Oracle on Purpose podcast, where we help intentional leaders clarify their purpose and next steps to create a work and life of significance. I'm your host, Lia Dunlap. Today, I'm honored to bring a fellow alchemist and talented soul guide. My guest today is Karen McMullen. Karen McMullen has had years into her successful business of speaking, coaching, and workshops. She became disillusioned, with her own inauthenticity in sales and marketing. And that's when she discovered human design, which helped her align with her nature and marked a significant change in direction. Seeking enlightenment, she left her successful business in Canada behind and moved to Mexico. Years later, she was surprised one morning when a clear voice began to dictate text to her. Chapter by chapter, the book, Alchemy of Consciousness, emerged. She is now channeling her second book, Awaken to Your Starseed Mission. Karen is a messenger who helps people awaken to their true role in the global grand reorganization. Welcome to the show, Karen. I'm so excited to have you here today.
So excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes. You know, one of the things that you and I have talked about, and you know, and people that watch the show know, is that I am an intuitive guide. I'm an intuitive business architect. And part of what I do with my work is to help people understand their unique life purpose and next steps. So my first question is, in reading your bio, there's definitely a hint of this, is how do you find alignment with your purpose and business genius in your work today?
It has been an ongoing process of realigning and trying things and then seeing, oh, that didn't feel quite right. And I feel by miracles, it's now, 10, 12 years into my business. And now I'm really starting to feel so aligned and everything that I create has a lot of integrity in it. So I think that part of it is trial and error. And then part of it is really going to people like yourself, getting to know yourself, getting help. And it's a process for sure.
Definitely a process for sure. I love that. It's a part of the journey, right? I always say, like, if you're still breathing, you still have work to do. Like, we're here to get that process going. And speaking of work and our work, real work, as I like to say. So I know that you're about to share some really great information with us. And I'm excited to share this piece because I do have an appreciation for the human design structure. And I'm curious, before we dive in, how do you feel your work has a positive impact on the world, this human design piece?
Part of the mythology of human design is that humanity is undergoing a very significant transition right now until about 2027. And this transition is about learning to navigate your life from your body's consciousness instead of your mind's. And so it's almost about surrendering, and instead of being a cell in the body of life that's like always enforcing your will, it's about learning to play your part in the whole in a healthy way that's not just conditioned. So I think really it's about letting go of conditioning and being who you really are. And to me, what could be more beneficial than a world where people are actually being who they are?
I love it. So would you say, I often ask people, what is your big vision for the work that you're doing? Would you say that's your vision for what you're doing?
Yeah, my vision is about creating an earth that's harmonious and where we're living in harmony with nature and with each other and with ourselves. So I would say this human design is a fantastic tool to move in that direction. Like it's an initiation for sure.
Yes. Ooh, initiation. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that. That's a great segue into this next piece. And before you go, I'm just admiring your backdrop. And I know I've shared this with you. Your home just looks so cozy and warm. And I think I termed it, I said, it's like a Hobbit environment. Like when you see the Hobbit environment, it just feels very earthy and grounded. And so I know that you're going to talk more about all of these factors that kind of create our space and how we show up in the world in human design. So I'm going to give you the chance to take over the screen. So if you're watching right now, get yourself a pen and paper. If you want to ask questions, make sure that you get those. We will make sure they get back to Karen. So if you comment below this podcast or on the YouTube channel, we will make sure we get those questions to Karen. And don't worry, because she's going to tell you how you can stay connected to her too. All right, Karen, I'm going to let you go ahead and take over the screen and begin to share about human design and what it means to us.
So when you look up your human design chart, basically human design is a system based on your birth date. It was channeled in the late 80s by a Canadian man named Ra Uru Hu. And basically he had a mystical experience for 8 days and 8 nights receiving this download of information in almost a takeover type transmission. And it combines many different systems. It works with the I Ching and the Kabbalah. It's an extension of the chakra system. And so when you look at your human design chart, you can look it up. Many different websites have free charts. You can just Google human design free chart and then look up your chart. It's going to look quite overwhelming. There's a lot of information in the chart.
It really is. You're right. I mean, I was just noticing this image. I'm like, oh, that's so soothing, because I've looked at my own and I've looked at others and it's like, wow, that's a lot of information. It's a great point. Yeah. So that's good to be aware.
Yeah. So when you're looking at it, I mean, it has a lot of information. It's very in-depth and complex. But what I like to do with human design and with my clients is just break it down into the simple and into the things that I feel are the most important for you to embody who you are and release conditioning. So I make it more simple. So here's an example of Lia's chart. And I'll just highlight a few things. You can see that there's some centers that are colored in, or that's called defined, and some are undefined. And I'll get into more about what that means. And then there's all these numbers. These are gates, and they're either in black or in red, which means conscious or unconscious. But we probably won't get into that today. But as a contrast, you can see my chart. It's much clearer. Oops. My chart looks quite different. So every chart is so unique, and that's part of the magic of this. And one of the things that I love about learning human design is also learning to really honor and respect who other people are. Because the moment I look at someone's chart, I get a sense of, okay, this is how I can honor this person. This is how I can treat this person. That's going to allow them to really be who they are in our connection.
And would you say it helps you when you understand that, then to have each person show up at their best and their highest too, right? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, exactly. So when I'm looking at a chart, I break it down into 4 basics. The first, and they go in order of importance. So if you learn nothing but your type, you've already really changed your life. So there are 4 different types. We're going to go into that today. There's also a place in your chart where you discover your decision-making authority. And this means the place in your body that you can go to reliably to help you make decisions that are right for you, instead of making decisions from conditioning, which also happens. And then the third thing is, which centers do you have defined and which centers do you have undefined? Your defined and undefined centers are going to say a lot about what in you is really reliable. You know, for example, by looking at Lia's chart, I know she has defined willpower. So most people have undefined willpower. Most people are not really here to be willful in how they go about life. But I know that by looking at her chart and seeing that center defined, this woman's a powerhouse. She's going to make things happen.
Yes, my mother would agree that I am definitely willful. So yes, that's come from a long line. Yeah, I love it. Great.
And then the final piece is, what is your profile and your circuitry? And those are really nice. Everyone loves learning about them because they're kind of those unique things about you that make you special. And so those are the things that I always break it down to. So I don't even really spend that much time looking at the gates. A lot of people that would do a human design reading would look at a lot of very minute detail, and that's not my focus with human design. So what I really want to impress today is just the 4 types. And the type refers to what kind of aura do you have. So you can imagine that you and your energetic presence extends out from your body. And human design is saying that your energetic presence actually has certain properties. And these properties will determine how you're best meant to interact with life itself. So, for example, the generator, which is 70% of the population, so most people are generators. The generator aura is this open and enveloping aura that's attracting everything to it that's right for it. So inherently, generators are kind of meant to be yin, in that they're letting things come to them that are right for them. So even though you have willpower, because Lia's a generator, she has willpower that she can use, but actually she's meant to let life reveal to her which projects and people to work with, because she'll get a response in her body to the people that are right for her. And then she can go for it with her willpower.
Yeah, I think that feels very attuned. Great. I love this.
The projector's aura is penetrating. So it's shaped like a little arrow there. And it's also absorbing. So the projector is absorbing and penetrating. The manifestor aura is dense and repelling. So it's here to make an impact. And they're the ones that are here to initiate. The projector's around 20% of the population. The manifestor, 9%. And then the reflector aura is kind of like what it sounds. It's sampling its environment and reflecting it back to itself. Okay.
That's a pretty small percentage, right? The reflector?
Yeah, they're relatively rare. I've only met a few. It's an interesting one. We're not going to get into that too much today, but there's a whole library of videos about human design on my YouTube channel that people can geek out if they want to go deeper on any of this. So the generator is the most important type to understand, because regardless of what your type is, you live in a generator world. So we're dominated and surrounded by generators. You're probably married to one, or your dad is a generator, your mom is a generator, your kids are generators. So you need to understand how a generator works, no matter who you are. And what makes a generator is that they have sacral definitions. So this center here, second from the bottom, is going to be colored in the chart. And this center is life force. It's very creative. It resonates with certain things and doesn't resonate with other things. And really, it's about using this beautiful life force energy well. That's the point of the generator, is just to use their energy well. For me, that was a big wake up, because before, as it was shared in my bio, I used to be pursuing success, and when I had my human design reading, I was like, what? You mean my life isn't about necessarily being successful? It's just about being satisfied and using my energy well. And I realized I wasn't using my energy well. I was burnt out. I was drained. I was unhappy. So when you look at your chart, you might see that it says that you're a manifesting generator, or that you have emotional authority. But as long as that sacral center, the second from bottom, is colored in and defined, you're a generator. Okay? It means you have that open, enveloping aura. And, if you can really conceptualize and get it through you, that you are attracting to you everything that's right for you as a generator. So it means that even if your mind is saying, oh, I should do blah, 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 it's the things that are actually coming to you that are right for you. And that also helps determine the timing of when you do things. So, for example, like I've known for about 5 months that I wanted to start doing podcasts. And, I just didn't do anything about it. And then Lia came into my life and asked me to do this. So it was just perfect. It's an example of, I've been knowing that was the next step. It felt like the right thing, but the timing was determined more by life. And if you can really relax into trusting that, part of this is about learning to trust life. When you use your sacral energy well, it regenerates itself. So it really makes you kind of youthful and full of life and full of energy. And at the end of the day, you'll be exhausted, but then you'll wake up regenerated because you've used up all your energy. Ideally, that's the life of the generator, is like, do the things you want. And then you're just like, oh, I need to rest. And the rest is really satisfying because you've used up your sacral energy. The sacral makes these sounds, and like, do you want to go for pizza? Do you want to go for Thai food? It's just this gut response that knows what it wants and resonates with certain things and doesn't resonate with other things. So the generator, part of the life of the generator is about getting back in touch with the sacral, because we have been so conditioned away from our sacral response. You have to sit here and learn for 8 hours a day sitting at your desk. That's completely unnatural for a generator.
Yes, my child is a generator, and homeschooling has shown us that is definitely true. That is tough on him, that long sit. Yeah, I love it. That's so great to see. Yeah,
and you can really trust. I mean, with kids, if you let them listen to what they have a response to, they know what they truly have life force for. And we can all be honest with ourselves of, this makes sense in every single way, except that it doesn't really resonate with my life energy. And when you follow what you have energy for, you become like this beautiful forest. And when you force yourself into things that you don't actually have energy for, you degenerate yourself. So it leads to burnout and even, kind of this hopelessness and frustration. So we are conditioned into making mental decisions rather than listening to this sacral life force. And this is where that hopelessness and frustration can come. And this is really where I was when I first met human design, was I had actually created everything on my manifestation board, and I was not truly satisfied. So it was very perplexing until this explained it. And that's why it was so powerful for me. I mean, if you're already living in alignment with your sacral life force as a generator, this information is not going to be groundbreaking for you. So the frustration is the generator theme when you're living from the not self. That's a human design term that you'll hear. It's basically the conditioning, not who you really are, but who you think you should be. And frustration, like those moments where you're like, ugh. For me, it often happens on the computer when things aren't working. That's a sign, in this moment, I'm not using my life force energy well. So I'm going to shift gears.
I like the simplicity of that definition. Like, you're not using your life force well. That just resonates with me, but I think it probably resonates with a lot of people because it feels so complicated. But if you just go right to the heart of it, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's simple because it doesn't mean that what you're doing isn't right for you. It just, in that moment, it's not right for you. So you can use that as a tool to guide, but there might be certain things in your life. For me, it was really obvious, like, I'm doing all these sales calls and I feel frustrated. I don't like doing sales calls, so I stopped doing them. I just stopped doing all the things that were frustrating, consistently frustrating. And then a whole new life unfolds because new things come to you as a generator. It's really just magical, because as a generator, you never know what you're going to have a life response to. It might surprise you. You might fall in love with a person you never thought you could possibly respond to. And then at the end of the day, for a generator, the best it gets is satisfaction. That was good. That's what the whole point of your life is. Those satisfied moments. Okay. So yeah, if you do have any questions, please comment. And I love answering questions. So I'm definitely happy to answer questions. So we're going to move on to the projector. So all the other types, projector, manifestor, reflector, if you have a generator in your life, you can really help them out by asking them questions, yes or no questions. Like if you ask a generator, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? They're going to say, I don't know. Because they need to respond to something. They need to resonate with something to know what they want. So if you said, do you want pizza? They're going to have an uh-huh or an uh-uh. They're going to know. They're going to say, no, I don't want pizza. Do you want the Thai food? Yes. So you can ask them these yes or no questions. And that's really even just such a simple and respectful thing that you can do for a generator, is let them, and then also just trust and let them resonate with what they resonate with. For example, if they don't want to go out for dinner with you that night and they just want to be home, it's not personal. It's just what they have energy available for in that moment. So it takes the personal thing out of it. Okay, so the projector, it's a little tricky for you to figure this out at this time and with your level of knowledge, but basically the projector has the sacral center is undefined. So it will be white or clear when you look at the chart. And then there's no connection between any of the motor centers, which there are 4 motors, to the throat. And what that means is the projector has no availability of energy to the throat. And the throat is where things manifest, where they come into expression. So that's why the projector needs to wait for invitations. One of the reasons why. As I said, they have this absorbing and then penetrating aura. So it's almost like the projector's eating their environment when they go about their life. They just get this real sense of the energies in the room and everything that's happening. And then they have this ability to just sort of say things that really just go right into you. And they're here to guide us. With the projector aura type, I have a little thing I say, which is it's mastery or bust. It's like you don't get a lot of leeway with this type, because your aura is almost like you're doing surgery on people all day. Like surgeons don't get a lot of leeway to make mistakes. So you really, if you're a projector, you really need to learn how to work with this aura and to be masterful with it, so that you can be you. Because if you don't, people are going to be in resistance to you. The projector doesn't have the sacral defined. And this particular point that I'm making here, undefined sacral, this is true for all of the 3 other types, the manifestor, projector, and reflector. Anyone that has an undefined center is going to have a tendency to not know when enough is enough. Generator uses their energy until they have none. And then they're like, oh, I'm tired. I can't possibly do anything else. The other 3 types don't actually have that sacral life force as a consistent aspect of their design. And when they're around generators, they're running on an amplified energy of the generator. So they're taking in that generator's sacral life force and they're amplifying it. So they can kind of go and go and go without any awareness that they're actually exhausted. And so they can really burn out. Burnout's a huge issue for all of those three other types because they're not regenerating like the generator is. And it's a real struggle for them to learn how to say, how to detach from that sacral energy early and say, I need to go rest, and not try to keep up with the generator. Just to do things at their own pace. They're more here to be specialists, working in concentrated amounts of time and learning to honor that and even to value it, especially for entrepreneurs in business. It can be really challenging because their value isn't about the do. It really has to be about doing and then resting. So another piece about this is this penetrating aura. I love the analogy of the surgeon to help explain this, because if you think about surgery, when you need surgery, you go to the surgeon and you ask for it, and you're so grateful. And it's so valuable. Surgeons are paid well. But if you didn't need surgery or want surgery and someone gave you surgery without you asking, that's a violation. So it's kind of like that with the projector. It's like what you say is never neutral. It's penetrating. So it's going right into that person. And so when you are asked to share what you see and what you have to offer, people are going to love you. They're going to think you're amazing. They're going to be so grateful. It's going to be life-changing. But if they didn't ask and you just told them, they're going to be probably resistant, rejecting you, and then you might end up bitter. So waiting for invitations and noticing who sees you and who's really ready for what you have, that's going to protect you from those experiences of rejection. That can be really hurtful for projectors. Projectors are brilliant. Oh my goodness. Like whenever I meet a projector that I like, I always ask them, what do you see? I always want to know, what do you see? Because they just have so many valuable insights. They see so much. So these are a few tips for projectors to practice waiting for the invitation. Projectors often fear, oh my gosh, if I wait, no one's ever going to invite me. But you have this aura who's designed to be recognized. People will see you. Even if you're just sitting there, you're extra noticeable. When projectors are operating from the not self, so not who they really are, they're going to be bitter because no one's appreciating them or really seeing them. They'll feel unrecognized. And what they truly have to offer is being lost. But what projectors are here for is success. They're here to be recognized. They're here to just chill out and be like, I've got all the answers in their back body, waiting for people to show up who recognize their wisdom, and then just giving, little darts of wisdom. Not too much, because people get overwhelmed by what projectors can offer them. Just one little bit at a time. Okay, so the next type is the manifester, and this is only 9% of the population. The manifester, when you look at their chart, won't have the sacral defined, so it'll be blank, and then they'll have one of these three centers defined, and then there's going to be a connection up to the throat center from either direct or indirect connection. So basically that means there's this motor connected to the throat. That means that they can just get into action and propel themselves into manifestation, either expression through the voice or into just doing to create what they want in life. So they're here to initiate, and they're the one type that doesn't need to wait for something to come to them. So the the projector's waiting for the invitation, the generator's waiting to respond to something that their life force says yes to, and the reflector is waiting for a lunar cycle. We'll get into that. But the manifestor's not waiting. In fact, the manifestor can't wait. If the manifestor waits for things that they want to come to them, it will never happen, and they'll never fulfill who they are. They have to go after everything that they want in life. So they're the most yang of all of the types. And most of us are conditioned by, Tony Robbins and the dominant societal norms to just go off and be a manifester, like you go make it happen, go get what you want. But the truth is, we all manifest. We all manifest. The generator has it pretty sweet, actually, because we're attracting to us everything that's right for us anyway. So if we can learn to chill a little bit and just use our energy for what we resonate with, then we are manifesting as well. It's just that the manifestor manifests in this kind of go get it type way.
That's a great clarification. I remember thinking, well, especially probably from my will side, but I always thought of myself as a manifestor before I had my human design done. And when I found out I wasn't a manifestor, I'm like, what are you talking? That's impossible. But this is so much, that definitely clarifies the difference of the fact that we do still manifest as generators. But this is really fascinating. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everyone manifests. It's just the mechanics of how. And it's been interesting because a manifestor really needs to be empowered. I have a lot of manifestors on my YouTube channel because that's my most popular video. And so I've gotten to know a lot about the manifestor as a result. And I see it's really hard to be a manifestor, especially as a woman, because women are conditioned to be passive and sweet. But this is, if you're going to be a manifestor, you need to be strong because you're like a bowling ball that's here to make an impact and to charge down that bowling lane and then knock all the pins over. So the manifestor makes an impact with whatever they do. And their strategy is to inform. So informing basically is based on this idea that manifestors are here to make an impact. So what they do, even if they just leave the house, if they don't tell the other people at home that they've left, the other people are going to notice for sure. And then they're going to worry and they'll be upset and they'll feel really offended that the manifestor didn't let them know where they were going. And unfortunately, it's very unnatural for the manifestor to inform anyone of anything because they always have this sense like, well, my business is my business. I'm going where I'm going. They don't even think, it doesn't even occur to them to let people know. It's like the last thing that they would ever think. But over time, as manifestors grow to see the impact, what happens is they realize, if I let people know what I'm doing, you're not asking permission. You're not asking for anyone's input. You're just saying, this is what's happening. As you do that, then you decrease resistance around you and people are like, oh, thank you. They feel relieved. They feel respected. The same goes the opposite. For manifestors, they need to teach the people in their life to inform them and not to tell them what to do and not to ask them. It's better to say to a manifestor, I'm doing a project right now with manifestors. So I just informed them, this is the project I'm doing. I'm looking for people that are willing to do X, Y, Z. That's it. I'm not asking them, will you be one of them? If they want to be a part of the project, they'll let me know. So you give them the information, because if you tell a manifestor what to do or you ask them, it's inherently going to create anger. So anger is the manifestor theme when they're in their not self. They're meeting resistance. They're having people interfere with how they are wanting to move through life. And so instead, they just really need to get into this habit of respecting others by just keeping them in the loop. Anyone that's going to be influenced by what you're doing, And then you're free. You're free to do your thing, which leads to peace. Just going about your life as you know that you're being moved. And manifestors are moved by life. They're moved by, God, all that is. They're kind of more in relationship to the cosmos than they are in relationship to other people. So they're kind of like these ambassadors for life itself. And so they need to be listening to how they know they're meant to move in the Maya, to use some human design lingo. So the last type is a reflector. So here's a reflector chart. You can see it has absolutely no defined centers. So it's all undefined. This is only 1% of the population. And they are, like I said earlier, just kind of sampling their environment and then reflecting it back to itself. So the most important decision a reflector makes is where they live. Because if they live in an environment that's harmonious, they're going to reflect harmony back to it.
That makes sense. That's interesting.
Yeah. And if they live in a place that's disharmonious or that they don't like, they're never going to meet the right people there. It's just a disaster. So the reflector really needs to be in the right place. They don't have any energy centers, any motors to rely on. So their decision-making is very inconsistent. And actually, as the transits are going through the sky, the reflector's chart is changing every day. It's actually becoming defined in different ways. So one day they might actually be more like a projector, and another day a generator. So they can be really unusual to be around because they're kind of shifting all the time. And that's why they say to wait a lunar cycle to make any significant decision. You have to kind of talk things through the whole cycle of the moon. Reflectors at their best are going through life with a sense of delight or surprise. Do I have the other one? No, the other slide I skipped by accident. In their not self theme, they are disappointed. So there's a lot more to say about all of those types, but that's a good overview for today.
That's great. I think it's really nice. Obviously there's so much more that can be learned and people are probably now scratching their head, but I love the fact that you explained that just by knowing your type, you can really start to understand, and even other people's type, reflecting back to them, and understanding and appreciating. My husband is a manifestor and I'm a generator. And it's interesting you mentioned that inform thing. It's very big for him, this information piece. And so it's really great to be aware, right? Like to be aware how we how we show up, because it can help us to avoid unnecessary argument when we understand that we're just coming from different perspectives. We have a saying around here, we'll say, oh, we really are just going from two different directions to the same thing. Like when we catch ourselves in this place of having that conversation from two different perspectives and suddenly like, wait, we were talking about the exact same thing. So like, let's go there and we can not necessarily agree to disagree, but agree to agree on what we are not saying the same way. So I love that. This is really, I think, such valuable work, and I appreciate that you're sharing it with our group. Can you tell us now, I know that you have the book, and I want to make sure we talk a little bit about that because it's a big part of what you birthed through your own process of kind of self-discovery. Tell me how, if I'm giving you the last word here as we finish up, what would you want to say with the value of knowing human design and understanding where we are in the current environment? I know that that's part of what you talked about. What would you like to say about where we are today and how people can learn more about what you're up to and how to stay connected and even maybe find out more about their own unique patterns within their own human design?
Sure. Well, I hope that everyone goes and tries something from what you learned today. So the idea of human design is it's an experiment. So everything that I share is from experience, witnessing, oh, that's a generator, that's a projector. So go out and try things. And well, thank you. But I wanted to mention my book. Thank you for mentioning it. This is really special. I channeled this book. So I began channeling about a year ago. And so this is, in a way, it's different than human design because it's my own channeled work. But one of the things that I channeled in this book is about the grand reorganization that we're all going through right now. And the pandemic is a perfect example of that. And it's basically this message that humanity is really going through a shift. And we're in this place of about to face more and more chaos as the world reorganizes and reprioritizes, and some of the current systems that we've built our society around dissolve and collapse, and we create new, more harmonious ways of being here. So that's what this book is about. It's about, finding your place in that context. And I do have on my website a free PDF. Oh, it's cut off here, but which
don't
is
worry, we'll have the links available. So everybody who's dashing to write these things down, don't worry, all these links will be available to you within the context of the comments. So
okay, cool. Yeah, so in the comments you'll find the link to a PDF that is a channeled message about the grand reorganization, which I feel is very valuable to give you some comfort about what's happening right now. I mean, if you are sensitive at all, you're probably feeling that the world is quite turbulent, and you might be wondering where your place in it is, who you want to live with, what you should be doing. All those questions I think are really relevant and important that we be asking ourselves and finding our truth and navigating life accordingly. So I also have a lot of human design videos, an entire playlist and library on my YouTube channel, so you can check that out. And I have readings on my website, KarenMcMullen.ca. So that's everything.
Fantastic. Yes. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Karen, for sharing all of those. It's one of those things where you open the Pandora's box, right? And we can just go and go and go. And I love that you what I really appreciated and what I told you is I love how clean and concise you bring it to the person who really just wants to at least have some understanding of themselves and how they show up in human design, so making it really accessible to people. So thank you for that. And for those of you who are now itching to know more, I highly recommend you take a moment to look at the links, contact Karen, get a reading where she can go deep into what your specific human design is all about. I agree very much that we are all in this place right now where we are being called to show up even more as who we truly are. So thank you so much again, Karen. Thank you all for watching. I'm Lia Dunlap. This is the Oracle on Purpose podcast, and we appreciate that each of us is here for a unique reason. And we all are part and parcel. Part of that function of human design is to really fulfill our unique purpose. So thank you again for being here, and be sure to check out all the links below. Thanks for tuning in to the Oracle on Purpose show. If you found value in this episode, we'd appreciate you leaving a comment. Also, you can subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't yet. If you'd like to get clear on your highest vision and next steps, go to oracleonpurpose.com. See you next week.